Kaja Israel, Kaba Egypt, Kaja Ethiopia, Kaja Sudan, Waja Shong. Kaja Ikushima, Wani me kona me Waja Shong. So Timbuktu, Ghana, Mali, Sumanguru, Waja Shong. Waja Waja Shong. Manchester, no Sumanguru, walk where they get, what you show. What's that to do, Wamasa, Yasan, what you show. Get your Israel, Kaba Egypt, get your Ethiopia, get Sudan, what you show. Abaka, Bachimo, 1 year, I forget, I got you 1 year, and in young fang. Abaka, Bachimo, 1 year, I forget, I got you 1 year, and in young fang. I'm a Gamian Matu, I'm a Gaonian Motu, I'm a Gaonian Watumo. I'm a Gamian Matu, I'm a Gaonian Motu, I'm a Gaonian Watumo. I'm a Gaonian Watumo, we not a Kachimo, Wabanya, Kaja Sani Wabawa, Kaja Sani Wabawa, Kaja Sama, Gadangino, Kaja Sani Wabawa, Nimobami, Ebaba, what you do, what you need, what you need when I do not remember me. Them say me no fit jump, them say you no fit jump, them say we no fit jump. Them say me no fit jump, them say you no fit jump, them say we no go fit jump.
Boss in Europe. Let me join Tap Send.
That's because I'm in Spain. I'm in Madrid. Oh, and Tap Send is having a double referral bonus promo. You don't know. That's why I'm here. So me too, I'm going to refer people in the USA and I'm going to get double my promo bonus. So meaning, if you're in the USA, you can also refer people in USA and you'll get double your referral bonus. If you're in Canada, you can do same. If you're in UK, you can do same. If you're in Europe, many countries in Europe, you can also do same. So join this promo. And this promo starts from now and ends in October. My brother, don't do. And it's double the promo bonus.
Download Tap Send now on Google Play and App Store. Tap Send. It's secure, convenient, easy, and fast.
Araba, there are some people at the door. Go and tell them I have traveled to Russia.
Yes, Daddy.
Where's your father?
My father said I should tell you he has traveled to Russia.
Your father has killed me. I sent him money from America to complete my house for me.
Are all student association contributions?
Even the money from the fundraiser for Kweku's surgery.
Oh! He too? Don't be a victim. If you're contributing to a project, alumni dues, or any public campaign, Chango is your best choice. Chango keeps track of all donations and gives you the power to know exactly where the money goes. Chango is approved by Bank of Ghana. Call 0270-066-614 or visit changoapp.com for more information.
Uncle, my father is hiding under the bed.
Oh, Araba.
Chango for your groupings and crowdfunding.
At Diaspora Insurance, we understand the importance of dignified send-offs within Ghanaian culture and traditions. We also understand that you want to avoid the double trauma of your family grieving and not having the financial support to cover funeral expenses when you're not around. With our Diaspora Funeral Cash Plan, you can now cover yourself or your family in Ghana or abroad. with no medicals required, will accept you if you are under 75 years. Visit our website today or call us to complete a simple form in under 5 minutes. With Diaspora Insurance, your peace of mind is guaranteed.
Good evening. Welcome to tonight's edition of the Ghanaian Community Awareness Forum. My name is Nanakwesi Kwesin the First of Ahanta Traditional Area and the Diaspora, and also the chairman of Ghana Union, UK and Ireland. Tonight we have a guest, special guest speaker on a topic that, as always, we bring you topics that we believe we all share a common interest in when it comes to our lives here in UK or in Ghana, our motherland. As always, our forum is a non-political forum, and so information we give here is only for your information, education, and making you aware of the things we can all do or share to help our cause as Ghanaians, either in the diaspora or in Ghana. And so my audience know full well that questions and answers are only related to the topic that we are treating. And so we speak to the issues that is on the discussion and nothing more than that. You will not be able to unmute yourself. You won't be able to share your screen. That is the order of the day on this forum. And we've been doing that for years. I would say nearly 2 years now. So we all know the basic concept of it. So without much going into too detail of what my do's and don'ts, I will today introduce to you an expert on the field of what we are talking about today. Our topic today is about tax, how Ghana's tax environment can be utilized to benefit the people. What are the strategies, professional strategies, ethical strategies, and all that we hope we can adopt as a people and as a community and as a country to benefit the course of our development, our people's lifestyle, and everything else. Those of us fortunate to live in the diaspora, specifically in the Western world, we know tax is the engine of most economies in the Western world. They don't have gold, they don't have diamond, they don't have all the natural mineral resources that we've been endowed with. And so you and I are the builders of all the economies that we see in great shape. But is that the same when it comes to our country, Ghana? And if it's not, then why not? This is what we are all here to learn, so that we can impact knowledge from somebody who has learned and experienced it and used it to help other organizations and countries here and there. And he's here to share with us his knowledge and experience. Tonight, without much ado, I would like to introduce to you our speaker for tonight. Our speaker for tonight, as a special guest of this forum, is a managing partner of two professional services, namely ICANN Associates, ICANN and Associate, and ICANN Chartered Accountancy. He is a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants, Ghana, Association of Chartered Certified Accountants in the UK, and a Chartered Institute of Taxation, Ghana. He has extensive experience in tax consulting and advisory, as well as other external auditing. He's a member of he's a council member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants in Ghana. Audience, join me as I welcome to this forum, Dr. Isaac Yami. Dr. Isaac Yami is our special guest speaker tonight, who will take us through all that he believes is good for us to know when it comes to taxation, the strategies, professional, ethical, the right ways of raising tax without committing a crime, if I may say so. Doc, thank you for your time and thank you for joining us. You are welcome to Ghanaian Community Awareness Forum. I must make you aware this forum is put together by Ghana Union, UK and Ireland, the Ghana Nurses Association UK, the Western Region Association of Nurses UK, and Ghanaian Nightingale Nurses Association UK. We are also saying that this forum is endorsed by the Ghana High Commission. And so we've had panelists ranging from political spectrum to professional background. And so today is our honor to have you, and I'm sure you will do justice to the topic for today. Take over from me, sir.
All right. Thank you so much, Nana. Thank you for the opportunity to connect with you all on matters that bother or concern our lives and our lives in Ghana and elsewhere. The thing is that wherever you are, and like my personal experience, when I was a student in the UK for some 2 years, I always missed Ghana and I always loved to come to Ghana. For whatever reason, whether it is interesting to come together or Ghana or not, you love to come to Ghana every other time, and that's wonderful. And all of us sometimes feel like that. Thanks so much for the opportunity once again, and I must say it's a great honor to do that for you. Basically, let me say that the presentation I'm doing it just gives us a platform to be able to ask questions and to relate to the topic and perhaps related topics as we get along. My approach will be to do the presentation first and foremost, and then we will have a conversation around the presentation and a few other things that you think that you need clarification on. So the topic, the Ghanaian tax environment for managing Ghana's tax environment for maximum impact in times of fiscal crisis. The professional and ethical strategies we need to know about. And so, of course, in every system, there are people who want to do it right. And I believe that many of us want to do it right. That's why we are professionals. We want to do it also really ethically, so that we can stand out shoulder high that we did it right and the system worked better. We don't want to be doing it business as usual, like people will normally do. That everybody does the wrong thing. So what is wrong with us if we also do the wrong thing? But that is not what we stand for. And that is what I believe in, that we need to know how to do things professionally and ethically. And then we'll make it better for ourselves and for our families and posterity. So we will look at 3 major areas. What constitutes fiscal crisis?
Doc, sorry, are you sharing your screen by any chance? Because we can't see your screen.
Can you see?
No, it's not coming through.
Hey, okay, let me try again. Share screen.
Yeah. Yes,
can you see it?
Yes, it's appearing now. Yes. So we missed the first slide. So if you know.
You
right.
seen this one?
Yes. Physical crisis. Yeah.
Okay. So we're looking at fiscal crisis. What do we mean when we say fiscal crisis, and what are the impacts? What exactly is it? Is Ghana in fiscal crisis yet? That's the first aspect of it. Then we look at the available options to businesses. So if it's true that we are in fiscal crisis, what options are available to us to make sure that our businesses are above the waters? In other words, even if the businesses will not grow, at least we can survive and until such a time that things begin to improve. And I'm talking about businesses because in as much as you are basically investors, because you are the ones that bring in foreign direct investments and foreign direct investment, and so you have micro businesses, small businesses, and even medium enterprises all over the place. So it will concern you as well. And then we'll look at the professional ethical strategies, then we'll then discuss. Basically, this is our roadmap for this evening. I hope I'm clear enough, please.
Yes, we can hear you, yes.
Okay, excellent. So fiscal crisis, what is it? And sorry, I think I may have to minimize. Okay, great. So fiscal crisis, according to Britannia, we look at fiscal crisis as the inability of a country to bridge the deficit between its expenditure and its revenues, revenues from taxes, fees, and investment. As individuals, we spend according to what we have. We try not to spend above our resources in terms of what comes in as our inflows by way of our income, whether salaries or fees from services we render, or fees or interest from investment or dividends from investment. So we basically try to do what we call a balanced budget. And we spend just enough and we save some also. So it's a state where, when we are in fiscal crisis, it's a state where you find out that the expenditure very much outstrips is more than the revenues. Therefore, fiscal crisis is characterized by financial difficulties, economic challenges, and technical difficulties. Now, it will look like, so financial, that means we don't have sufficient money to spend to undertake essential projects for the benefit of the citizens. The economic indicators such as the exchange rate, inflation are far above the norm and all of that. And so that also results in some kind of political memories, because you find that then not only political but social memories. People are always saying the system is hard, the system is difficult, the system is not just as we are experiencing at the moment in Ghana. And I must say that this issue of things are difficult is not only in Ghana, but it's something that cuts across the world at the moment. I mean, in UK where you are, and perhaps Europe, and also in Americas, and several other places in the world, it appears this has become the new norm, where things are just, food prices are above rooftop, and everything appears to be not too clear for everyone. And so crisis occur, the sources of this fiscal crisis can range from internal factors, in-country factors, and external factors. The internal ones being mainly being mismanagement within the system. Sometimes you find that there's so much corruption and things that do not make us happy, because the public servants are not behaving well. The culture is, people are not disciplined, and everything appears not to be falling in place for the normal person. So we have mismanagement and excessive dependent on imports and frivolous spendings and all of that. So in-country factors are there, and then also the external factors. Usually we cite the issues of the effect of the Ukraine and the Russia-Ukraine war being some of the major external factors that we are managing at the moment. And every country is reeling under this sort of war, a war that is not taking place in your country, but you are far away, but we are all suffering the effect of the war. So there are external factors as well. Now, where are we in terms of, are we Ghana there in terms of the crisis? And what has been the indicators? At the moment, if we look at the picture in Ghana, the World Bank in June 2020 has it that Ghana's fiscal deficit was at 5.5% of gross domestic product. In other words, we have a deficit of 5.6% as of June to manage. All that we produce together, everything that we put together, our expenditure far outweighs whatever we produce by 5.6% of gross domestic products. Even though we in Ghana targeting in our budget that we were going to exceed our budget by 3.9%, but the World Bank came out with 5.6%. The next issue to look at, another characteristics we see is that the public debt, the borrowing of Ghana, reached 78.3% of gross domestic product. So it means that of our gross domestic product, 78.3% doesn't belong to us. It belongs to other people that we owe. So 78.3% of public debt. While our debt servicing and the interest payment on our debt is about 54.4% of Ghana's total revenue. So if we use 54.4% to service debts of our gross domestic product to service debts, then the balance what can the balance do for us? It means that we need to borrow a lot of money to be able to do things that we need, because population is increasing, the demand for public good is increasing. Our roads are not in the best shape, that we need more hospitals, we need several essential services to be able to live a normal life. So the public debt means we have overborrowed, both internal and external. It's exceeding the GDP by 78.3%. It constitutes 78.3% of our GDP. Another indicator that is of a big concern is that as of August 2022, Ghana's inflation was 33.9%, whereas in July, it was 31.7%. But just in October, we are now in November, last month, it rose to 40.4%. This is quite serious in terms of, so we have plenty money in our hands, but it cannot command a lot of goods. This is a situation we find ourselves now. There's so much money in our hands, but we can't buy. In terms of the ability to command the same quantity of goods now with a certain amount of money, you need some more money to be able to do the same amount of goods that you perhaps wanted a few years ago. Then again, when it comes to monetary policy rates, in terms of the Bank of Ghana borrowing rate, interest rates, at the moment in October is 24.5%, and it rose from 22% as in September 2020. And just imagine that if Bank of Ghana borrowing rate is 24 or interest rate is 24.5%, then what would the commercial banks charge for in terms of interest when your business wants to borrow money from the banks as working capital or for any other purpose? That would be very, very, very high. The most painful aspect of this whole thing is that the Ghana cedi has depreciated significantly over the last couple of months. And it keeps depreciating sometimes. And of course, the argument we make is that is a question of demand and supply, and that people tend to demand the major currencies, the dollar, the Great Britain pounds, and the euro in Ghana than our own currencies. And in other words, we want those money. Some people even want to save in hard currencies. So as of today, 18th November, we have the exchange rates of major currencies being reported by Bank of Ghana, including USD, because one USD now by Bank of Ghana rate is 13.11%. If you come to Great British pound, £1 is 15.62%, 15.62 cedis, and that of euro is 13.57. And so these indicators do not bring enough confidence into our system. The indicators appear to be getting worse by the day. and we really have a lot to have to manage. Therefore, we ask ourselves, ladies and gentlemen, we ask ourselves whether Ghana is not at its, whether Ghana is on its right footing. At the moment, we know that cost of living is increasing by the day, and the cost of doing business is also growing up. Individuals are struggling with the cost of living, the fuel prices, even the utilities, electricity, water, and those basic things are increasing. Whilst because just as individuals are struggling through, the businesses are also struggling through, and businesses must work and give money to individuals to spend in terms of their disposable incomes. So such economic state impacts the business space in many ways, in terms of the governance, a governance perspective, and in terms of business perspective. So what we are saying is that there's a need for budgetary support for us, budgetary support for Ghana. Where do we get this money from? Where do we need the money to do the extra spending in order that we can satisfy everybody in some way? Do we need to borrow at the moment? Just imagine the ratio of our debt to GDP is so high. So do we continue to borrow? Now, who are those willing to lend to us? Look at the kind of ratings that we have had in the past couple of months. The Fitch rating, and the rest of the rating agencies. We all need, and so either we get the money internally or we go borrowing again. And at the moment, our chances of borrowing from abroad is very difficult. Are not too bright. So if we are not able to make money from elsewhere, then the governance perspective we are talking about here, we are saying that it impacts revenue targets that will be set for the revenue authorities in terms of the Ghana revenue authorities. The domestic tax mobilizers, the people that are mandated to raise money for the government of Ghana, in other words, the tax authorities, they will have to raise their targets in order that people can be squeezed for that money. It also impacts on the behavior of the Ghana Revenue Authority because their targets will be increased or have been increased. And by increasing the targets, then the officers become aggressive towards tax collection. At the end of the day, that then means that there will not be a very cordial relationship between between the tax collectors and the taxpayers. And so that is one perspective that we should talk about in terms of the governance perspective. It makes governance difficult and set people fighting against each other. Then the business perspective is that there's surely, because of the situation we find ourselves, there's increased cost of investment in the country. At the moment, if you bring in a certain amount of USD to come and invest in Ghana, and you expect to repatriate that money back to where you took it from, elsewhere in the diaspora, you need to make too much money in terms of cedis to be able to get a dollar. Even the flow of the dollar from Ghana to another country is being restricted at the moment by the government. And so we have increased cost of investment, and you in the diaspora in particular are the investors that are supposed to bring in money to come and invest and try to improve upon the gross domestic products of our country. So new investors are dragging their feet because of the indicators are not just right. Not only that, we also have issues of increased operational costs. I tell you, existing investors are struggling to stay afloat because at the moment, people are forced to even increase salaries because the purchasing power has dwindled so significantly now. And so employers are struggling to make sure that they can retain staff by keeping by increasing remuneration of their employees. And when this is happening, sometimes the employers, and when they are tired of all of these things, then they just lay off. They lay off their staff. So these are some of the practical things that are happening in terms of the business perspective. Again, we have this issue of aggressive tax officials, as we have indicated previously. Now, recently, I'm not talking about a tax environment, because you see, with all that I have said, what I'm saying is that if it's difficult to raise money from elsewhere by way of lending or loans to the country, then the only option left to us is to find a way of raising domestic revenue. I mean, through taxes. And so recently, the GRA has, we have witnessed increased tax audits by the Ghana Revenue Authority in response to government's need for cash to support the budget. And so increased tax audits and increased desk audits in order to, in a bid to augment the comprehensive audits performed in a year, as well as raise tax revenue for government. What do I mean by desk audits? And what do I mean by comprehensive audit? With desk audits, once your returns are submitted to the Ghana Revenue Authority, they just sit behind their desk, review whatever returns that are submitted, and then try to raise an assessment based on that. And formally, it was just something that is a routine activity that you submit your documents and they will do desk examination of the documents. And after that, they just raise an assessment which can be discussed with the taxpayer, and certain position is established. And then if there's a liability, then the taxpayer pays. Or if there is a refund to be made, then that is refunded to the taxpayer, all things being equal. And so there is increase in these activities. Tax audit, and then comprehensive audits. Comprehensive audit here, the auditor or the Ghana Revenue Authority auditor moves into the offices of the taxpayer and examine every aspect of the taxpayer's business in the bid to ensure that all the disclosures that they are made to the Ghana Revenue Authority can be confirmed by this process of auditing. And so there's a lot of auditing going on around. There have also been, again, because of all this, what is happening, and GRA must raise money for government of Ghana, there's increase in distress actions taken by the GRA. What is distress action? Here, it is established that under a distress action, the taxpayers are deemed to have, and in fact, have been assessed to be owing the Ghana Revenue Authority a certain tax liability, and they are not able to raise money to pay off the liability to the Ghana Revenue Authority or to the government of Ghana. And here, the Ghana Revenue Authority then goes to basically close down the business until they can raise money, and then they pay off the taxes, after which the business can be open to them. So there have been a number of such actions around the place, distress actions by the Ghana Revenue Authority. And in certain cases, and recently, the Ghana Revenue Authority has to, because we have introduced e-invoicing, electronic invoicing in supermarkets. They have had to send their staff to the supermarkets to monitor the sales that are going on there electronically, which was not received very, very nicely at all by the supermarkets. But these are some of the things that are indicating that things are not too well with us here in Ghana. Overall, Ghana Revenue Authority has become more aggressive in ensuring tax revenue collection or recovery. Continuing from the business perspectives, now we're saying that the current economic indicators, especially the foreign exchange rates and inflation, are disincentive for new investment, and therefore investment obviously will be slow. If we don't invest in Ghana, how do we create more businesses? How do we employ more people? These are factors that we have no control over as far as we are concerned now. We have no control over this issue of foreign exchange rates, depreciation in the value of the currency. The inflation is just galloping. Food prices are still very high, and things like that. After the COVID, most businesses are already running on lean budget. In fact, the COVID came to work. Maybe the whole problem started with the COVID. The whole problem started with COVID. COVID started, and when COVID came, it basically dislocated a lot of things. And so many people are running on lean budgets. So it is practically impossible to further reduce operational costs in order to manage cash flows to survive in these times of, so people are just living on the line, businesses are not too happy. There's also, again, we said that in view of the increased aggression from the Ghana Revenue Authority, this means that if tax obligations and compliance with tax obligations are not managed well, there's a high potential for avoidable cash outflow in terms of taxes. So businesses must sit up and make sure that they are doing the right thing. Said that the revenue authorities do not basically push them too hard and extract more money from them. So we can now move on. Basically, we're looking at the fiscal crisis and the characteristics and the impact on businesses, governance, and the rest. So now let's look at the kind of options that are available to businesses for purposes of managing these things. So the fiscal crisis, the options and ethics. Now, obviously, businesses must and will evolve by employing various strategies to survive during this fiscal crisis. And in fact, certain businesses will not like trouble and therefore would like to do the right thing. Others will not do the right thing because it's just difficult to do the right thing at this point in time. It's quite difficult. However, people have various survival strategies to be able to survive in this situation of fiscal crisis. But let's note that in the current global economy, the ethics of a business impacts the brand strength of that business. In other words, if a business is very ethical, it attracts more businesses. It attracts more customers. It attracts more opportunities to be able to continue to do business and to stay afloat. So we are looking at this in terms of the social impact of business decisions. So if a business person decides to do things that will diminish or will basically reduce its brand strength, the likelihood is that people will divert businesses from such business, divert their business from such organizations that are being unethical in terms of being seen and not paying taxes correctly. And therefore, the brand strength will begin to diminish. We don't want that to happen. We don't want our brand strength to diminish. We want the brand strength to be stronger and stronger, and our brand health to be better. And therefore, we have to find a way of managing ourselves, our businesses, so that there can be repeat businesses for us, for our businesses, and that there can be opportunity to, again, stay afloat and grow. Now, the options employed by businesses in response or in evolving to accommodate the crisis must be thought out carefully. Yes. So the question is, you have a business running, and this business running must survive. Would you like to do the right things to ensure that even if you're not making too much profit, you stay in business and hope for a better time? Or you do the wrong things that in the event that you are caught, the managers of the business are brought to book. If you recall, recently, there was this banking cleanup exercise in Ghana. Many of the issues that came up, some of them were purely matters of perception, the way they conducted their banking businesses. Others did some kind of wrong. Of course, there were wrongdoings. And of course, others were more politically motivated. However, I guess that many of the businesses that remain would have been touched by this kind of cleanup, by being taken over by government and all of those things. I believe they did something right in order to stay in business, so that government does not interfere with the way business was being done. And therefore, we're saying that if we have unethical decisions, we are likely to have bad publicity, we will have poor social capital and we'll have loss of social affection for our businesses, and people will divert opportunities away from us. However, if we take the right decisions, the ethical decisions, we'll have strong social capital and brand strength, and therefore that is likely to lead us on, and after going through the crisis, we become stronger and stronger and more profitable. So, having said that, what is ethics or ethical tax planning? We want to do planning that has got some elements of conscience in it, fairness in it, responsibility, integrity, there's honor in it. In other words, we want to do something that is lawful, at all times lawful. So again, this borders on the concept of right or wrong in planning our tax affairs and what businesses decide to do where the tax law is a gray. In other words, that area is not very clear in terms of the law. So the typical business is faced with a choice of doing it right or doing it wrong, and doing it carefully in order to make sure that they can continue to remain in business. So it covers anything and everything from how we file returns to the Ghana Revenue Authority, how the information is disclosed on the returns that are filed with the Ghana Revenue Authority, the relationship that we maintain with the tax officers, and the way we negotiate matters with them in the event of any liability. Because remember something, tax officers, and especially in Africa, there are very good ones amongst them. There are also very bad ones among them. But remember that when you do any deal with tax officers and it comes out, it becomes an issue that the embarrassment does not only affect the tax officer, but it affects your business. And so these are things that we have to be looking at. It covers ethics or covers all of these things. Would you want to go and shortchange the government of Ghana by negotiating and paying bribes to tax officers? These are some of the things we have to consider. So tax planning policies and execution methodologies, how reasonable are they? Is this something that is universally accepted in practice by the tax office and also in the tax environment? These are matters to consider. And so the point is this, that how will the business brand be impacted? In other words, in terms of the social capital, if the actual reasons behind the tax decisions of a business or a company or an enterprise and its relationships with people were made public. In other words, let's ask ourselves, if someone gets to know about what we have done wrong, are we going to feel comfortable? If you go to bed, are we able to sleep? Are we worried about even our personal reputation? Is that the kind of business you want to have in Ghana? So in the decisions that we make, we are looking at all of these factors. And so we have to try as much as possible to be ethical in our approach. Things that are, there's the equity follows the law. There's a quotation that says that one of the maxims of law of equity says that equity follows the law. Do we follow the law? Can we do that? Or we are prepared to make some payments at the ports and basically allow our things to go through without paying the required amount of taxes. These are some of the things that we need to consider in terms of our options. What do we do, right or wrong? Ethics or unethical? Are we worried about our brand strength? Are we worried about people worrying about, or people who walk away from us because of the way they have, the kind of things they have heard about the way we conduct business? And so these are the things. Now, finally, to the third part. How can businesses evolve ethically in terms of what we are discussing? So we will consider some do's and don'ts in tax planning in times of fiscal crisis. And this will basically, these are being categorized under whether we have healthy relationship with tax authorities, by way of liaising with the way we liaise with the tax office, the way we manage tax audits, and our responsiveness to queries and response of timely response to the Ghana Revenue Authority. There are other matters such as that are in a system. For instance, at the moment, we have some form of tax amnesty. The law is of the effect that if a taxpayer discloses all of his tax liabilities and file a return up to 2020, if there are any penalties and penalties to be exerted on late filing and late payment and unpaid tax liabilities, the penalties will be waived. The current tax regimes in Ghana, the penalties are very, very aggressive in terms of penalties are quite high. So you don't want to be engaged in doing paying penalties, and therefore, how do you go about managing your affairs up to the year 2020? If you are doing tax planning, are we reasonable in terms of our tax planning schemes? Do we, like I said previously, do we consider the social impact or brand strength matters when we are taking business decisions? So let's look at these kind of strategies that can help us. Other professional and ethical tax planning strategies. The important thing here is to be friendly. Let's be friendly. Ghana is a friendly environment, and so there's a way you can be friendly to the tax officers without and making sure that you are not overcharged tax. So in liaison with the tax office, let's not detest the officers, because sometimes people make derogatory comments about officers, and just imagine putting yourself in the shoes of those officers and people come to make certain comments to you which are not palatable. It will change your attitude and for that matter, the attitude of the tax officers towards you. And they could, instead of giving you a good advice, they could even advise you in a way that might go against you. So let's not detest the tax officers. They are only doing their jobs. Instead, let's be friendly with them, and let's bear in mind that they have targets to meet. The targets must be legally met. The targets are targets that are given to them by the revenue authority, by the government of Ghana, in other words, the Ministry of Finance, and they want to make sure that wherever they can get taxes to collect, they will collect the taxes. So let's be friendly with them. It doesn't hurt to check up on them every now and then if you know them personally. There's nothing unethical or illegal about it. Ask their opinion in terms of rulings. Sometimes you are entering into a complex business transaction, and people you consulted gave you different views of the kind of the tax effect of those business transactions. The safest thing to do is to also know the mind of the Ghana Revenue Authority. In other words, you write to the commissioner asking for a ruling on how he would have treated certain transactions that you are entering into. And those rulings are not binding on the taxpayer. They are basically guiding you. You can actually walk away from the ruling and make your own decisions based on your understanding of this thing and of the business transaction you want to undertake. And so, or you can actually go according to the ruling, and you have that choice. So ask their opinion, rulings, ask them to educate you, and double check their responses with your tax advisors to ensure that it is not a pro-revenue position. And so sometimes, even as tax consultants, we are making sure that where the law is not quite clear, we advise our clients for us to ask for ruling from the Ghana Revenue Authority as to how they will approach certain things. And based on their ruling, if you know the mind of your opponents, you know how to manage yourself. And therefore, if you know the mind of the Revenue Authority, you know how to manage your affairs such a way that you tread cautiously and you are not exposed to tax liability. Another important thing to do is that we will look at the way we manage our tax audits. Where possible, we should use a tax advisor to lead in the tax audit, because at the moment, like we are saying, there are a lot of tax audits going on, and we need to get advisors to, of course, these advisors will charge some money, but it is something that through a process of discussion, you could get a good deal and then use an advisor to manage the tax audit for you, especially because you as an investor may not know all the taxes, but advisors know more. During tax audits, we need to remain friendly and responsive to their inquiries, friendly and responsive. So what they ask, we give them. If we do not have, we tell them we don't have. And we do not need to volunteer unrequested information unless it will help our cause. There are certain, in a typical tax audit situation, there's a need to make sure that the people who respond to questions, you identify people who can respond to questions in the business. It's not everybody that comes and is asked questions and then the person volunteers an answer. That is not a professional way of managing it. There must be a focal person to whom the tax auditors will walk to or require answers from. So let's not volunteer unrequested information unless it will help our cause. We need to be technically correct, and therefore we should make technically correct representations. Otherwise, we keep quiet. Tax is law, and tax law are most times quite difficult to interpret, even though they are supposed to be very simple for us. But consistently making technical wrong arguments that lead them to believe that you are ignorant will put you in a position where your business will be seen as doing things that are not right. They may try to bully or overtax you because of the ignorance that is being exhibited. And so it is important that when it comes to technical arguments, if you don't know, then ask someone or tell them you don't know, you want to get back to them at another time. Now, avoid the habit of openly castigating the tax office or auditors. These things have put many people into trouble. Like I said, they are human beings like us. They are doing their work. If we are made to feel less, that we are inferior or we are not doing the right thing, then people begin to look, people will feel bad, and the tax officers will feel bad and begin to get aggressive on us. Therefore, we need to be responsive to their queries and invites and respect the times they give us. If they say submit information within 30 days, within 14 days, these are things that are most of the time dictated by law. We need to do that to ensure that we don't fall, they don't begin to look at us differently, and for that matter, they punish us for not complying with their requests. We also consider base compliance. Now, the base of any efficient tax plan is compliance. What do we mean by compliance? Compliance is basically, for every tax type, we need to file our tax returns. If there are liabilities on the tax returns, we need to pay those liabilities. If we cannot pay, the law provides that you can always negotiate with them. You can always go to them and ask them that and give them a payment plan. The law is that flexible. Give them a payment plan, you agree with them, and you now begin to pay according to the payment plan. But remember, in the event that you do not follow the payment plan, then it's as if you never negotiated any payment plan at all. Then it means that all the tax liability becomes payable immediately. And that is sometimes some of the things that lead to distress actions, because then they would say that they'll close down your business until you come and pay all the liability. The absence of tax compliance would trigger what we call tax evasion. Tax evasion is criminal. It's something that is criminal under the law. And so we don't need to make people feel that we are doing anything wrong and criminal for that matter. As for compliance, there are various tax types. There are rules for compliance. We follow the rule. They say equity follows the rule. We follow the rule, and in following the rule, we do not fall into the hands, into wrong hands. Since nobody budgets to pay penalties and interest to the GRA, we should avoid it by complying with all our tax obligations on a timely basis in terms of calculating the tax, filing and paying the tax obligations. We need to calculate the tax payable correctly. If we don't know how to do that, we have to consult and make use of our network of people. This time around, it is so the social media has made life so easy for many of us. Even amongst us as professionals, we try to, both in country and beyond, we have professional networks that by just a quick WhatsApp message, you have an answer. Let's make use of all of these people so that we do not fall into problems. We need to file all returns on or before their due dates. And in fact, in terms of due dates in tax administration, it's not negotiable. It's not negotiable, especially due dates for filing of returns and paying, but of course, paying of the tax liability can be negotiated. And in other words, you get involved, like I said, you just get involved, make a payment plan and approach them, and you have to put it on paper so that they can monitor. So we have to file all our returns on or before the due dates. We also need to pay all our tax due on time or enter convenient arrangement with the tax office where there are cash flow challenges, including when you have agreed to shadow payment timelines. There should not be any bounce checks. Currently, because of technology and digitization, most tax liabilities, in fact, about 95% of tax liabilities are paid to the bank directly. And assuming you pay, that is paid, returns are filed electronically, but payment is done to the bank directly by the taxpayer. And that payment must be done on time. Where check is issued, the check must be sufficient money in account in order to ensure that those checks can clear. So there will not be any need for bounce checks because punishment follows after bounce checks. We have to do reasonable tax planning schemes. I mean, nothing stops us from doing tax planning. Nothing stops us from doing tax planning. Yes, tax planning is legal, but it can be unreasonable. Sometimes aggressive tax planning. People can do some aggressive tax planning and you wonder which part of the law they get that kind of ideas from, including trying to falsify documents, sometimes understating revenue, hiding certain books, and name them. People do all kinds of tax planning, and they tell you they are doing tax planning. And some of the questions they ask is, after all, what is the government using the money to do for us? And when people begin to ask questions like that, you can see it's much of behavior that is going to be inimical to the payment of taxes. So tax planning is not aggressive tax planning is not to be tolerated, but reasonable tax planning is okay. And tax planning is done in the context of the law. It's basically what is tax planning: arranging your affairs in such a way that you can actually defer your tax liability, minimize your tax liability, extinguish your tax liability. In other words, your tax liabilities you take advantage of certain incentives in the tax law. And that means then that you need to look into the tax law and look at the areas of the tax law that can benefit you by reducing your tax liability. And there are provisions of the tax law that can help in that direction. Anti-avoidance provisions tends to give the commissioner, the Commissioner General, the power to reverse any anti-avoidance practice that comes to the attention of the commissioner. So don't pursue unreasonable plans. There are a number of anti-tax avoidance provisions in the law. Tax planning can also be deemed as tax avoidance. And in doing this tax avoidance, we must make sure that, like I said, they must fall within the law. And this is especially so where it relates to gray areas in the law. And so we have to be careful the way we go about our tax planning. Let's try to subject all the tax avoidance plans to the reasonability test. I'll give you an example. If the law provides that you can give fuel coupons to your employees if they have to do certain things on behalf of the in other words, as part of their remuneration package. You can give them vehicle, give them driver, give them fuel, and all of that. And up to a certain amount is charged on them as part of their income for tax purposes. Now, when it concerns drivers and vehicle and fuel, and you know that most of your employees do not have drivers, vehicles, and but you decide that you are going to give fuel coupons to all employees so that they can go to the filling stations and go get cash as if they have bought fuel from the fuel attendants. That cannot stand any reasonability test because it's basically wrong. It is only people who have vehicles that they can give fuel coupons to, and not everybody. And once upon a time in Ghana, there were a number of organizations that were doing similar things. And eventually, when there was a tax audit, and the tax auditors or the DRA clamped on them, and that at a very high cost. And so we need to be careful about that. Now, let's look at a couple of things for purposes of our tax planning. Do not overload fuel cards, especially visa-enabled cars with unreasonable liters of fuel, unless the employee drives an articulator. You can use fuel coupons instead. Do not reclassify or shift or split allowances for purposes of putting them under tax-exempt areas, which make the amounts deemed as exempt. No, you find that sometimes. I remember, and these are some of the questions I get a lot, that there are certain incomes that are exempt from tax, and that they have been advised. I mean, taxpayers tend to ask those kind of questions. They have been advised that those incomes are exempt from tax, so you can even pay it to the employees without passing them through the payroll. And I can tell you that there are very few things, exemptions as far as employee incomes are concerned. Most of them, everything is virtually taxable. Of course, there are opportunities, a few opportunities like the use of fuel coupons to reduce the amount of tax, but it's not something that we apply to all. So we need to be reasonable again. Do not negotiate for taxable supplies. To not charge VAT in order to reduce your cost. This is a potential for recovery of principal and interest from you. So this is something under the VAT Act. Do not track provisions made and disallow in prior years for possible utilizations in ensuing years. So things like provisions are not tax deductible. There are things that are that are disallowed, and the tax bill increases. So if provisions have to be allowed as expense in the business, then for purposes of tax, there must be that which meets certain criteria. For instance, that those provisions, that the taxpayer made reasonable effort to collect those amounts from the customers, and the customers cannot be traced, or the taxpayer takes them to court, or engages third-party collection agencies to collect the debts, and there's evidence to show for that and all of that. So these are some of the things. Do not bulk all repairs and maintenance in one general ledger. This may adversely impart limitations on repairs and improvements as provided in Section 12 of the Income Act. We should remember to tax employees on global income, not only the part paid in Ghana. Remember, especially as resident persons in Ghana, we are taxable on our worldwide income. Our worldwide income being both income that we earn in Ghana and income that we earn abroad or elsewhere. Under the law, we need to submit returns in respect of all our worldwide income if we fall under residents. But if you are a non-resident, under the Ghana tax law, you are only liable to tax on income that you derive from Ghana. These are things that, of course, with the help of consultants and with the GRA themselves, they can explain things in a way that you are not exposed to tax risk. So do not mass use benefits in kind like accommodation benefit. Conduct a cost benefit analysis. There's sometimes opportunity in tax planning when the accommodation is owned by an employee and the employer says to the employee that they will rent a house for the employee or they'll pay for the accommodation, and in the process make an arrangement to pay the rent to the employee. But of course, a certain tax that will be deducted will not be as high as if they were being taxed normal. And so most tax types have transactions tax points. Once the transactions occur, the tax crystallizes. Therefore, we need to make sure that we know the tax points for purposes of such taxes. As such, before engaging transactions, ensure you understand and appreciate the tax implications of the transaction. And here we're saying that use a tax consultant or knowledgeable persons in your network to understand this. Do not execute transactions before you seek advice on transactions, structuring, and taxation. This way, you cannot avoid the avoidable tax. As part of the pre-transaction due diligence, tax rulings may also be secured from the Commissioner General prior to transacting. I think I made that point earlier. Ensure that all contracts are subjected to tax review and advisory prior to signing and execution. One risk that many businesses run is that contracts are entered into without being subject to any risk of taxation in the contract. And sometimes when contracts are prepared, there's a need to give the contract to a tax advisor to have a look at it and identify the areas that tax exposures are likely to arise. In that way, you manage it through the process of contracting, negotiating the contract. And so it's very important that contracts are subjected to tax review. This way, reasoning conclusions can be made after all operational and non-operational tax exposures inherent in the contract are considered. I mentioned along the line that there are things to note under the tax amnesty currently going. Presently, until December 2022, tax liabilities of year of assessment up to 2020 can be paid without penalty and interest. So we take advantage of this as much as possible. So those of us who have any tax liability to pay up to 2020 and have failed to file our tax returns up to 2020, we have to make efforts to file the tax returns and to make reasonable arrangements to pay the tax liability by the end of December 2022, so that the penalties and interest are waived. So we take advantage of this as much as possible and have a fresh start. As part of the amnesty, taxpayers can schedule payments and avoid bullet cash outlay in meeting the compliance obligation. So they don't have to pay everything at once. It can be staggered without the payment of interest and penalties. But in the event of a tax audit, note the following also: do not pay assessed liability arising from gray areas of the law, as it may result in overpayment. So once the law, and sometimes when a tax auditors assess a taxpayer to tax, they have to ask for the area of the law in respect of which they are assessing the taxpayer to tax. So, and there are gray areas of the law. And when it concerns gray areas, then the taxpayer must take a step back and not rush to pay the tax and find a way of having a discussion, especially when it is about desk audits, because desk audit is not a final audit. Desk audit to be done at one point, but eventually there'll be a comprehensive audit of the same information. And in that case, the comprehensive audit will tell the story well. Where there is an impasse with a desk auditor, request for a proper field audit or comprehensive audit. Do not entice or negotiate unlawful tax reductions with benefit to officers. The report will be reassessed by field auditors. So sometimes you say you pay some either call it bribe or some kind of motivation to a tax officer. And that tax officer, his work is not final. Somebody else will have to validate it in future. And therefore, let's be careful in doing that. Let's remember in the case of field audits or a comprehensive audit or final audit, to remember to be friendly and responsive. Do not appear as being sketchy or hiding information. Pay the tax assessed if you agree or object.
Okay.
Do not entice the officer to lower the liability with a benefit to him. Else you are contributing to tax revenue leakages or loss to the state.
Okay, Doc, we need to round up so that I'm mindful of, I know it's very good point you're giving us, but our guests and audience may want to interrogate a bit more. So if you can round it up for us so that they can at least also have a 10 with you. Thank you.
Thank you too. Well noted. So basically, I'm now just some 3 slides to go. So let me just go through quickly. With the current global village economy, ethical behavior or lack of it impact materiality and the brand value of the business. So decision makers must consider the social impact of the strategies they implement. Tax planning is no longer just an issue of tax, but a business-wide issue with potential for revenue, customer loss when it goes wrong. The brand strength of a business are impacted by the perception customers hold, including their tax compliance culture. And note that unethical tax behavior will result in bad press and damage to corporate reputation. The opposite is true also. The probability of this risk occurring will be high if the business engages in aggressive tax plans. This is because in times of fiscal crisis, the government or GRA will open their eyes widely and seek to implement all anti-avoidance rules to increase tax revenue. Remember, times of fiscal crisis is not the time to evade or aggressively avoid tax to shore up cash flows. Rather, it is a time to carefully avoid all risky tax avoidance options, as the government or GRA is equally wild. Finally, this funnel, starting from the base, there is no efficient tax plan devoid of tax compliance. Do not avoid tax compliance. So compliance is the foundation of tax planning. Subject tax plans to reasonable tests. Not all tax avoidance plans are reasonable. Most will be reclassified by the Commissioner General when subject to reasonability tests. Always obtain pre-transaction advice. Perform tax due diligence on all transactions before execution. Once executed, tax crystallize. Tax amnesty, take advantage of tax amnesty and manage the tax audits well. We hope the amnesty is extended again. Do not entice tax officers with benefits. Consider impacts of decisions on business brand value. Once decision makers have this awareness, ethical tax planning will be easier. And finally, maintain a friendly relationship with the GRA. Your relationship with your tax office will positively or adversely impact your business. On that note, thank you for your audience, and I'm now available for questions and discussions.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you, Dr. Yami. It's been a very thorough one. The information you've given us today is such that I am hoping that our audience have grasped everything, and hopefully the questions will be straight to go. I think we'll give you a minute or two to get some water and clear your throat. We will come back. And I do urge all my audience who have questions, and also while they do so, Dr. Yami, if you can quickly in your mind plan something around what does government need to, what are the areas government do to generate a lot of their taxes? Because some of us have misinformation about how many percentage of Ghanaians actually pay tax at all, which category of businesses do pay. A lot of tax evasions are happening in the system, and probably explains why we are 3 point something percent of our GDP going into debt and servicing debt of 54%. So maybe when we come back, just 5 minutes and point 1 or 2 areas you think that are weak in our system, because the individuals that we need to pay tax, I think we know what we need to do. It's about how we find way to swerve it or dodge it. And that is why our government, not current government, previous government and future government will continue to suffer if we carry on like that.
Yeah.
So I'll give you 5 minutes to think about something while we take a quick break and you can grab yourself water.
All
We'll be back shortly.
Thank you.
Boss in Europe. Let me join Tap Send.
That you guys, I'm in Spain. I'm in Madrid. Oh, and Tap Send is having a double referral bonus promo. You don't know. That's why I'm here. So me too, I'm going to refer people in the USA and I'm going to get double my promo bonus. So meaning if you're in the USA, you can also refer people in USA and you'll get double your referral bonus. If you are in Canada, you can do same. If you are in UK, you can do same. If you are in Europe, many countries in Europe, you can also do same. So join this promo, and this promo starts from now and ends in October. My brother, don't go. And it's double the promo bonus.
Download Tap Send now on Google Play and App Store. Tap Send. It's secure, convenient, easy, and fast.
Araba, there are some people at the door. Go and tell them I have traveled to Russia.
Yes, Daddy.
Where's your father?
My father said I should tell you he has traveled to Russia.
Your father has killed me. I sent him money from America to complete my house for me.
Are all student association contributions?
Even the money from the fundraiser for Kweku's surgery.
Oh! He too? Don't be a victim. If you're contributing to a project, alumni dues, or any public campaign, Chango is your best choice. Chango keeps track of all donations and gives you the power to know exactly where the money goes. Chango is approved by Bank of Ghana. Call 0270-066-614 or visit changoapp.com for more information.
Uncle, my father is hiding under the bed.
Oh, Araba.
Chango for your groupings and crowdfunding.
At Diaspora Insurance, we understand the importance of dignified send-offs within Ghanaian culture and traditions. We also understand that you want to avoid the double trauma of your family grieving and not having the financial support to cover funeral expenses when you're not around. With our Diaspora Funeral Cash Plan, you can now cover yourself or your family in Ghana or abroad. With no medicals required, we'll accept you if you are under 75 years. Visit our website today or call us to complete a simple form in under 5 minutes. With Diaspora Insurance, your peace of mind is guaranteed.
Thank you very much. Welcome back, audience. This evening, we have listened to Dr. Isaac Yami, a specialist tax accountant, a chartered accountant, and auditor as well on the field of taxation. He's taking us through a number of areas that blows your mind. This program, of course, is being sponsored and supported by Ghana High Commission, the Western Region Association of Nurses, the Ghanaian Nightingale Nurses Association, and of course, Ghana Nurses Association. It is put together by the leadership and coordination from Ghana Union. Tap Send has been supporting us, and they've done so through thick and thin, and hence why we can bring you this program through your screens at home without having to travel, and still enjoying what it means to understand what we're doing. Diaspora Insurance, thank you for your support, kind support, and all the time bringing us live, connecting us on all the platforms that others are watching, and of course, IT Consortium, all your IT needs, all your security IT needs, and everything that you need to do, they are all online. Please go and have a look, utilize their services. Chango is a platform that we use to generate funds for schools, all students association, family, meeting, reunions, anything that you want to do that you think you can gather people together to support. And we thank Omega Live TV for carrying this live, obviously, on all their platforms. People are watching us from America, Germany, all the parts of the world. And that is good for us as a community to broadcast this to you once every 2 weeks, engaging you in a conversation that you probably never hear it from any other source other than Ghana Union Community Awareness Forum. I hope my audience will raise their hands, those who have burning questions. But before they do, I will have, like I said to Dr. Yame, just 5 minutes, because I didn't quite hear a lot of the things that people do wrong. A lot of the things that government is so much in need that could have helped it to get to the better side of the economic management in the crisis that we're finding. Is it that people at all in Ghana, 30 million people, how many actually truly pay tax? And why is it that so many are evading tax? And if they are paying tax, how do we actually get those tax? Is this something, if you can, just 5 minutes. We are now 2023. I mean, 8:23, no more than 8:30. We'll open the lines for Q&A, and it will be first come, first serve, and by 9 o'clock we'll close. But today is very educative, and I want people to understand, because otherwise, people are saying, Ghana, we are not doing anything. We are not. But the question is, how many of you are actually paying tax? And that is what I want you to talk about a bit more. Just 5 minutes.
Please. Okay. That's a very good question. Thank you very much. I have done some work with the Private Enterprise Federation in terms of doing a research for micro, small, medium enterprises, and see basically, and most of them are in the informal sector. In terms of the tax-paying population, in terms of the culture of tax-paying, is extremely poor in Ghana, I must say. Because as at a a few years ago, not currently, but about 4 years ago, the total tax-paying population in Ghana is not up to 4% of the total. The current tax-paying population is not more than 4% of the total tax-paying population. The ones that are paying tax is less than, in fact, is less than 5% as we speak. And what has accounted for that? Various reasons. One of the things is the fact that there are multiplicity of taxes, several taxes that lend themselves to a lot of misunderstanding, because especially the income taxes, the tax laws are quite complex, not too simple for people to understand. People don't really know their obligations, and the DRA is not doing too well to educate people. And so the education factor is there. People are also saying that there are so many taxes. I have to pay withholding, I have to pay company tax, I have to pay a PAYE for my employees, I have to pay withholding tax, I have to pay VAT, I have to pay national health insurance levy, I have to pay that, I have to pay, so several taxes. And small and medium enterprises don't have the expertise to know what taxes they should be paying, and GRA has not reached out enough onto them. And so a lot of people are taken by surprise when the DRA decides to go after them, and they tell the DRA, oh, we are not aware that we have to pay this kind of taxes. That's one. And so how do we resolve that issue? I mean, it's just a simple answer of educating the people who are supposed to pay their taxes. They have to invest a lot of money in educating people to be able to pay their taxes. And then another way of dealing with that is to have a kind of a tier tax system, a system that looks at big businesses, the taxation of big businesses differently from taxation of small businesses, micro, small and medium enterprises differently. In order to deal with this issue of multiplicity of taxes, then we should have one tax rate that when a taxpayer pays, then he doesn't have to pay any other taxes. In other words, the issue of ignorance will go away, and they just know that we have a one tax rate that is that they have an obligation to pay, and when that tax is paid, they don't have to worry themselves about going about what taxes they haven't paid or not paid. So people out of frustration will just say, just throw their hands in the air and say that no, we don't understand what is going on in that process. They just don't. I'm not worried about paying the taxes anymore. Now, the other thing is about the tax-paying culture is not. We need to deepen the tax-paying culture. You and I know that when you are in Europe, everybody wants to comply as much as possible, comply with their tax obligations. And then the employers are doing the deductions and paying the taxes, and people are responsive to their tax obligations. In Ghana, on the other hand, people would want to, they feel that those who don't pay the taxes, they are smarter than those who pay. In other words, if you don't pay the tax, you are a guy. No, it's good that you don't pay taxes. That behavior is something that we need to check, because if we don't pay tax, we don't get things done for us. Hopefully, the politicians don't waste the money, but at the end of the day, they need the money to run the system for us, so we can also manage our own lives. So the tax-paying culture must be deepened in Ghana. And rewarded in a way. Again, another thing I see is that there are we have a number of tax in a tax law. There are a number of taxes that have not been maximized. In other words, we haven't taken advantage of using the tax law to go into those areas that the tax law has identified for purposes of taxation. We focus on one area and focus on certain taxpayers who are regularly paying. So at the end of a certain budget period, we just say, let's increase the corporate tax rate from 25% to 30%. And we are going to tax the same people who have been paying all the taxes. But there are other businesses out there who may not necessarily be paying certain taxes. And so you need to make sure that you expand the coverage of the tax paying population. And I believe that we should have sufficient revenue from taxation to manage our crisis. Why is our, imagine, like you rightly said, why are we overspending our resources? In other words, we spend more than we receive. Anybody in business, if you are you spend more than you receive, it means you're not managing your affairs very well. In business, and you and I know that if we do that, at the end of the day, our businesses will collapse. So we have to spend within our means. People make political promises. They want to build airport, want to build that. Even when we don't need the airport, they make promises that they want to build the airports there, which do not bring any economic value to that particular environment. It's all big expenditure. When that happens, at the end of the day, they need to go and find money elsewhere to do it. And that is where we borrow a lot of money from elsewhere. If the monies that we borrow are channeled to things that will bring additional money to us, then we should then be able to, basically we'll be able to pay off the money, those kind of monies, and then we improve upon the facilities for purposes of making more money. Unfortunately, we take the money and use it to do projects that will not bring more money to us. And when this happens, the debts keep accumulating, government after government. We have more debt to pay. This one, they come to compete on the basis of who borrow more than the other, that sort of thing. I think that's also another area that we need to watch carefully.
Yes.
If you are borrowing money from the bank and you don't use the money to raise more money for purposes of paying the bank off the loan, then one day the bank will come after you and take money and basically close down your business and recover their assets and sell in order to make sure that they can get their money back.
Yes.
So there are simple economic principles that we need to follow to make sure that we stay above the waters, and this crisis should not be something that we should be experiencing every now and then.
Yes.
These are my initial comments on your question.
No, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Doc. So far, so good. We've not had any hands up, so I'll go through the chat room and find out if there are any questions that you've not addressed already. How did we Ghanaians got into this terrible mess? Okay, that's a matter for debate. What happens to the taxes that has been paid already? What has the government done with them? We need to identify those taxes first before we ask what they've done with them, which will take a long time to identify. But as I'm going through the chat room notes, I'll call our regular questionnaire, Mr. Noble. I'm watching, please, to ask your question, and I will take time to read those chat room and come back to which one I want to put to you, Doctor. But please, we have only 27 minutes, please. Let's go straight to the point. No narratives, no background stories. Let's ask the question and take
have
the
I
answer.
unmuted properly?
Yes, you're unmuted, sir. Yes,
okay, thank you for having me on. Thank you for your very good presentation. There's one thing that I've noticed, that in Ghana, even though we think we have political independence, like most other African countries, we don't have economic independence. So essentially, we are still dependent on others for us to provide our roads, hospitals, basic necessities. And the reason why this has been so, from what Doc just said, until 2018, which is about 4 years ago, our percentage was only 4% of the ones that have to pay tax. This is disgraceful, to say the least. So all those governments that have been here since they dot up to 2018, they were irresponsible. That is, they were in capital letters. Because, as you said, you have to collect tax before you can develop a country. And I made an observation when they were debating about e-levy. Yeah. I find a whole educated person challenging the fact that we should pay 1.75%. And the way they were challenging it, they were making it look as if it's a very, very criminal imposition on the country. Instead of coming up with ideas about how best that 1.75 can be collected, how best the net should be spread wide, and how we can find the loopholes of tax avoidance. So it comes back to what Doc said. Our education system is so poorly managed. Because how can we live in a country we don't develop a culture of contributing for our own development? And then we call ourselves we are independent. How can you be? So, Doc, that's a contribution, but my question is, in your view, how best can we actually move from this position of being so dependent? And you know, at the moment, people in Europe and the rest, they also have their own problems. Sooner or later, we won't get the loans from them. We are now,
in fact, we are not even getting from them anymore. Yeah.
So how can we as a country, because we need the opposition and the government, both of them, to work together to find means of spreading the net. In fact, I always say that if this Dr. Baumia, or whatever his name is, has not done anything, he's done more for this country than any given political person, for the simple reason of creating an ID. And from this 2018 to now, they've expanded the tax to about 10%. From the 4%, it's now about 10%, and their aim is to move it to 14%. So this is very impactful. 50 years from now, all sensible people will say, praise this man when he's alive, whether he becomes a president or not. He's done more for the country, for our great children unborn than any single individual. So
thank you.
my question is, how can we expand the tax base?
Thank you. Thank you. How can we expand the tax base from perspectives of what's the background and the things he said? And then also, I mean, we've just had our autumn statement from Chancellor, and he's highlighted all kind of areas, those who are getting breaks here and there, those who are getting higher rates for higher earners. Do we have any mechanism like that in Ghana, or is it, how does it work? Somebody was asking about that in the chat room. It seems like only those who are in government jobs that pay tax, those who are selling cocoa in front of their shop, in front of their houses, around the corner, or those who are doing labor work on the construction sites, and they are being given cash here and there. How do we actually get to a point where we can actually raise money from some of these things? And I know what Mr. Noble Martin was saying, that this digitalization thing that has been going on over the past 3-4 years has helped to retrieve at least 6% extra people paying tax, and we are now 10%. But how can we actually make sure it helps? Is it because we are politically so sensitive that we don't want to talk about it? Or is it because we just want to shy away from actually educating people to know the merit of taxation?
Thank you. Thank you very much for the Noble. Your contribution was up, was great. And thank you for the questions. I believe that Ghana has got a very high capacity to tax, which has been underutilized. I believe that there's a lot we can do. Like I said, the tax laws we have are sufficient. Of course, taxation is the creation of law. So if we have the laws, then we have the mechanisms to rope in all the people that have been identified, or the objects that must be taxed, and all of those are identified, and then we try to collect the taxes in that manner. Now, I can tell you for a fact that, let's say we're holding tax on rent, residential and non-residential accommodation. The law requires, let me give you this example. The law requires that when a landlord is being paid rent in respect of the provision of a residential accommodation to a tenant, that the tenant making the payment, especially if it's a tenant is a company or an entity, must withhold tax at the rate of 8%. And if the payment is in respect of a non-residential property, what we would call commercial property, then 15% withholding tax when they are making the payment of the rent. Now, just take Accra alone, and let's say East Legon, for instance. I know you are all familiar with East Legon. The amount of people that are having accommodation at East Legon, and they may not even be living there, but they have rented out their premises. The question that one can ask is, are they all paying the withholding tax on the rental of the various properties they have in East Legon? And these people who have properties at East Legon also have, most of them politicians, business people, etc. Sometimes I have a strong feeling that the tax collecting agency, that's the GRA, has not been very, how do I describe it? They have not been really organized enough to be able to collect the taxes, because it should be possible, because buildings are things that you can relate to. You can just go there and find a way of seeing whoever you find there and serving your notice and making sure that you can follow to find the owner of the building. All of these things, I feel that the revenue authorities, other armchair revenue authority, they are not moving aggressively enough to be able to take all the taxes that are sitting there. That is only to talk about East Legon. There are several areas in Accra that are so developing and are so developed. and we have property. So we have a lot of money sitting up there in the hands of people who own properties. And the taxes are not being collected. Not only that, look at the informal sector. Like I noted earlier on, the informal sector, they form about 70% of the economy. They are not exempted from tax. How do we make it easy for them to collect it so that we can collect taxes from the informal sector? They are undertaking business. In fact, they are the ones that control the economy. Go to the Makola area. Go to these modern markets in Kumasi, elsewhere. They are all supposed to be paying taxes. Again, it boils to the fact that the Ghana Revenue Authority that is mandated to collect all these taxes, I don't see the agency with which. So they end up collecting taxes from the same people year on year, which is not the best way. Then it is creating inequity in the system. And so that is just to mention a few. You have several taxes that are sitting in the law, but I mean, if you want to wait for people to come and report that they have taxes to pay, then it's not, because that is not the culture here does not encourage that people reporting themselves to pay tax. No. So you have to make the effort. And so whatever effort you have to make, you have the mandate. Go for, Dr. Baumia came to digitize the economy in many ways. And that is why we are all talking about him, that he's done so well. And we made it easy to at least rope in a few more people and increasing the tax-paying population. In the absence of digitization, and we can use digitization to do several other things, and I believe they are exploring that. But I think that the tax office must move to the areas that they need to collect the taxes, because there are so many areas that are untaxed, even though they are covered by the tax law. Right. Yeah.
You see, what I mean, I'm only giving you my only comment that from here where we are, from the day you are born, from the minute you are born on a hospital bed, your details is on the system. The minute you turn 16, your national insurance number automatically comes to you. The minute you apply for a job, that national insurance number is already being taxed. This is one of the biggest headache, because we are digitalizing a lot of things, but we are leaving hospitals. People are giving birth left, right, and center. They are not, that's basically the whole, what is it called? Register of birth and death does not even coordinate with each other. You could be registering your birth in Seshri or so, and when you go to Kukrantumi, they won't even find your name on the system. When are we ever going to get to that stage? Because when you turn 16 here, you don't need to ring up for your national insurance number, what you people call it your TIN number and all kind of thing that you are using now. It makes it, and I know it's an advanced world, but that is how we gradually get there, because we need to start from the basics. Because right now we are starting from top to down. We are not actually dealing with the underground issue that is causing this problem for a long time. So hopefully, you people in your relationship with other top powers be, put some of our notes to them to see how they can also work with it. Now, can I ask you one or two questions from the people that sent me questions in advance?
Yeah.
So does the pay as you earn system operate in Ghana, and how does it work? I think I raised that earlier. Pay as you earn.
Yes.
Is it only government payroll staff that you are able to do that, or is there a way other people who are not on payroll thing can also do? Self-employed people have to file tax? What are the legal implications if they don't? And how do you actually police those who go around collecting those monies? That's another big loophole that hasn't been tackled. Right? You are in your house, somebody will come, they will value the property, they will tell you have to pay 1,000 Ghana a month, but you are my brother. Just I will put down is 200, you give me 500. Of course, if somebody who is struggling, and you are saying, I'll give you 300 and you reduce it by 500. That's how we've encouraged this loophole to grow and grow and grow. How do you speak to that, please?
Yeah. Yeah, the pay as you earn system is a provision of the tax law. It works in Ghana. It works in Ghana. Where does it work? It works in, because you see, the pay as you earn system is a tax table for individuals who earn income. Individuals. So whether the individual is in the government sector, is in a private company, is working on his on his or her own as an enterprise, and he allocates some salary to himself or herself, then the person has the obligation to deduct the taxes and pay to the Ghana Revenue Authority. Now, those folks in the public sector, in government sector, it's so easy to track them and collect the taxes. And so they are paying the taxes, the pay as you earn taxes to the government of Ghana. What about those of us, like I manage my firm of, I have 15 employees, and we still are going to be recruiting. And so it is, the law makes it mandatory that the employer, the company, deducts all the pay as you earn taxes and remit the money to the Ghana Revenue Authority or to the government. And we do that. So there are several other companies like my company that are also doing the same thing. So we have people, so let's say my company is a formalized environment. What about the ones in the informal? The majority of those people, of such entities, are not formalized as ours. But the law requires that they also pay taxes on the incomes they earn once the income is not below the minimum wage. This is it. Everybody is supposed to pay tax. Everybody is supposed to pay tax. So if my family don't pay tax, the GRA will come after us. Just as they come after us, they should be able to go after other people who are not also, who are supposed to pay taxes, but they are not doing it at the moment because they are hiding behind. They are hiding behind the scene and they don't want to pay the taxes. And so these things are already, I mean, just as it is in the advanced economy where everyone is supposed to pay tax in accordance with the law, we are also supposed to pay tax as such. But the problem is, in as much as people find the way of hiding away until they are caught, you know, and the GRA again is not too aggressive, you know, to look for those people who are supposed to do the PAYE or pay as you earn. Let me also say that the law requires that everyone who earns a chargeable income must file a tax return every year at the beginning of the following year. They must file a tax return. The returns filing is mandatory, yet people don't file a return. Now we know that there are penalties for failure to file the returns. And so again, it comes back to why are we so different here compared to you out there? You know, we are so different. We don't want to do what we have to do. And so it left all of us struggling. We want the good things for our lives, but we don't want to contribute to the good things that we need for our lives. And that is a problem. It's a culture problem. And look at it. You made a very important point about the top-down approach. If we were to go to the basics and start educating, get aggressive education across the country, and tell people their obligations and help them to understand how they need to go about these things. Give us, it's a lot of investment. Give ourselves 2-3 years down the line, you will see that the taxpaying population will increase significantly. Not only that, and the revenue would increase, and we don't have to go borrowing money from elsewhere. I think for me, what many government comes as they come for purposes of borrowing. Instead of looking internally for the money, they go borrowing from elsewhere. And that has created a problem for us now. Because everybody wants to come and borrow. Everybody wants to come and borrow money. There's a verse in the Bible that says that the borrower cannot be richer, cannot be better than the lender. And it's always true. How will you continue to borrow and you'll be better than the one who gave you the money? You know, so it's always true. And I think that we need to reorient ourselves and get to the basics.
I think, Doc, it would be fair to say that we have a long way to go.
A very long way to go.
66 solid years since we claimed to be able to manage our own affairs. We still have a long way. Probably a century will come and go, and we will still have a long way to go. But the truth is, we have to start somewhere. This is the reason why some of these conversations are, we don't have a national policy. The reason why those on the ground, small pockets workers are not paying is because they are all politically driven ideas, right? There's no national policy. That is the mistake that our constitution has imposed on our country, because every party seeks the interest of winning. And once they win, they forget about everything until another 4 years. Where I sit right now, whether there is Labour or Conservative, it won't stop the rail work that is being constructed across Abbeywood to Heathrow, because it's a national policy, right?
National policy.
Okay, whether there is a Ken Livingston or Mayor Khan won't change that work. The problem we have there is one person come and throw in all the big words, and unfortunately, for lack of knowledge, we follow them.
We follow them.
Right, and this until we find a way of drawing national policies where whichever party comes that we can stick to, some people will pay all the taxes, they will never see development in their area. Others too will not pay, but for the sake of the fact that their area voted most, they will see all the development. Yeah. And it's happening across Ghana, and this is not politics. I'm just trying to explain how me sitting afar and a regular person going to Ghana see it. You can see the inequalities in developmental areas within Ghana clear in your face. So it makes it difficult to convince the cocoa seller whose road has been left for how many parties come and gone to be paying tax when other people are getting good electricity, good water, Wi-Fi in their community, while others are in the village. They can barely even travel to the city closer to them. So we have a long way to go. It's a country, it's a whole country. And I think the dynamics are wrong. We've continued to promote this politically tense environment, and it's not doing anything to us.
Yeah.
I think it would be fair to say we all have to come to realization where we have national policies that every government, irrespective of whichever party, must comply with. And then if you have a little bit left and you want to do your politics around it, like we all do see here, then that is fine. But until we get to that point, that is going to be our overarching problem. It appears my audience today have been very enthused with your explanation, and there isn't much hands up. So I'm going to bring this to an end. And I will let you give us your closing statement, please. Do you have anything to add to us?
Yeah, I think, let me say that there is a lot of potential in Ghana. In fact, I always say that Ghana is a virgin land. It's still a virgin land. There's a lot of opportunity to explore. The problem we have had is the problem of leadership. Like you rightly said, people come in and make a lot of promises, and we fall for the promises, and we don't want to hold them to the promises they have made. And when we attempt to do that, people begin to look at us as being politically driven and motivated. So we need to be very fair to ourselves that I don't see how we'll go get money from other people to come and develop our system. There's a lot of money also in Ghana that we can use, we can collect and use to develop our country. And for me, as a tax person and having dealt with several different taxpayers, I know that the opportunity to tax is very enormous in Ghana, but we are not doing it. What can we do? We can only continue to talk. We don't have to stop talking. We have to keep talking about it and telling people that we are not comfortable with the way the system is not fair to those who are paying taxes. And therefore, all of us must try to pay taxes. Then the politicians must take it upon themselves also. And I believe that most of these politicians come to the UK and the rest. When they invite you for programs, please attend the programs and let them feel the way you are talking to me. I wish I'm a politician to be able to,
When they came to the Queen's funeral, they were all in a bus.
Wow.
And the moment they arrived at the airport, they were in convoys to their houses. That's how terrible our situation is.
Wow. Wow.
in a National Express bus from Heathrow to wherever they were going, Westminster Abbey. Anyway, that's just by the way. So they know well. All I'm trying to say, they all know too well what it means to do the right thing. But they pick and choose when it suits them to do it. And that is the sad truth of
that's a sad thing. But we need to keep talking. That's like I'm saying, we need to keep talking. Those of us who are into education and training people, we keep talking about this every now and then. The awareness must be stronger. There was some time ago, I think under Kufuor's regime, the vice president to Kufuor, the late Aliyu Mama, if you remember.
Yes.
Yes, he came to start a certain national campaign against indiscipline. If you also remember that one, where people, you see a typical Ghanaian guy standing by the roadside and is wee-wee and all of those things, and it was all over, played all over the TV stations, and that thing to a large extent was, and he promoted a lot of sanitation and all of those things. When leaders like that take interest in matters like this, by basically championing a campaign to promote certain things, it gets caught up very easily. And so, like Baumia has done, he's also one of the person who, his objective is to make sure he can use digitization to improve upon revenue performance in the country. It has worked quite well. We need a lot more of such champions, and to be able to do more of the noise making and the programs that will help people to know the need to be civilly responsible by paying their taxes. The taxes are there to be collected. I think that we are just not collecting the taxes to do what we need to do. And so we need to keep talking. We need to keep encouraging ourselves and helping, letting people know that they have an obligation towards the country, and nobody else can come and bring us money to do better than we can do for ourselves. We need to collect the taxes. So on that note, I would like to thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Yami. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your knowledge that you've shared with us and the expertise you've given us, guiding us through a whole lot of areas that otherwise probably we wouldn't be aware of. We thank you on behalf of the Ghanaian Union Community Awareness Forum, Ghanaian Community Awareness Forum, the audience, and everyone else listening from far. We thank you. Program has been put together by Ghana Union, the Ghana Nurses Association, and of course, Ghanaian Nightingale Association, in conjunction with Western Regional Association of Nurses, supported by Ghana High Commission. We are grateful to Paul Akwabwa, Linda Wayo, for the technical work they do behind the scene. Grateful to TapTapSend, IT Consortium, and of course, Diaspora Insurance. Tonight, we've brought to you issues around tax. We'll be here next 2 weeks, but I'm still following a line of inquiry, which I've not got confirmation yet. So please watch the space. The information will come out soon. Dr. Yami, while you're here, may I ask you to help us identify somebody who can help us talk about the Auditor General's report. As an auditor, I believe you would know a lot of you. I've been chasing people in Ghana who are not cooperating like you did. So thank you for your cooperation. But if you can help me, that would be great. So that they can explain what that Auditor General's report all means. I'll be very grateful. On that note, have a restful weekend. Stay well, be safe, and we will all meet again in 2 weeks' time, God's willing. Have a good weekend. Good night.
Thank you very much. Thank you all. All the best.
Good night.
Bye.
Okay.
Hello? Oh, my son is Canada. I think he left home, menu. My son, this is a setup that he was paying. Oh, yes. I Spain most any sika free ha. E ko Ghana. Yet we love you. It's 11 and as a me fama of a baby family. Oh, that be my son. Would you check your phone? Why? It's very easy now to send money from anywhere in Europe to Ghana. I'm in Spain right now, and I just send money to my mom. And on Tiasia, also don't send it, don't take e-levy. No, on Tap Send, there's no e-levy charge. It's just free when you send. Those in the US, those in London, those in Canada, plenty places in Europe. You can send your money through Tap Send to Ghana, and please, it's free of charge. There's no deduction in any e-levy or any charge at all. So what are you waiting for? Send the money to those family people. Me must send it. Let's go and take a clan talk. Reggae man of a pack. It's Tap Send.
At Diaspora Insurance, we understand the importance of dignified send-offs within Ghanaian culture and traditions. We also understand that you want to avoid the double trauma of your family grieving and not having the financial support to cover funeral expenses when you're not around. With our Diaspora Funeral Cash Plan, you can now cover yourself or your family in Ghana or abroad. With no medicals required, we'll accept you if you are under 75 years. Visit our website today or call us to complete a simple form in under 5 minutes. With Diaspora Insurance, your peace of mind is guaranteed.
Araba, there are some people at the door. Go and tell them I have traveled to Russia.
Yes, Daddy.
Where's your father?
My father said I should tell you he has traveled to Russia.
Your father has killed me. I sent him money from America to complete my house for me.
Are all student association contributions?
Even the money from the fundraiser for Kweku's surgery.
Oh! He too? Don't be a victim. If you're contributing to a project, alumni dues, or any public campaign, Chango is your best choice. Chango keeps track of all donations and gives you the power to know exactly where the money goes. Chango is approved by Bank of Ghana. Call 0270-066-614 or visit changoapp.com for more information.
Uncle, my father is hiding under the bed.
Oh, Araba.
Chango for your groupings and crowdfunding.